How can you know how good this Honda NSX really is compared to other Group 3 cars on Gran Turismo 7? Well, I'm going to test its acceleration, top speed, tyre wear, fuel consumption, performance under BOP on different tracks, upshift points and brake balance. That's right, I'm going to do the work so you don't have to. Coming up. Hello and thank you for joining me in this next episode of the Group 3 car comparison series. This time I'm in a Honda NSX and I'm getting straight into the acceleration tests. First thing that struck me is that I could instantly feel how much harder it was to get away after testing two front mounted engines in the last two videos. With the Honda, all of the weight is behind me and I had to wait before I got going rather than wheel spinning on the spot like the Beetle. This was a very slow time though, upshifting at 50% on the rev bar. The time we're looking to beat is 27.012 set by the Corvette, but this run only got a snail-like 27.730. The gear ratios feel much longer in this car compared to the last two I tested. I can nearly upshift first gear when I want to rather than just smashing it in quick because the gear is topping out in no time. Then, the gears are so long that I'm barely out of sixth when the run is over, even though I'm short shifting. Doing all of these upshift tests will tell us whether going long into the gear makes the car faster or not. The time for this run was 27.475, which is getting us closer to the Corvette, but we're still a way off. In fact, this is the third run already and the NSX hasn't even got close to the Corvette's slowest time yet. At this stage, I'm wanting it to come alive upshifting at 90%, and although times are moving in the right direction, it doesn't feel like we will have a sudden burst of energy at the middle to top end of the gear in this run. But I'm keeping the faith though, as times are improving and we're getting closer to that 27.0 mark with a 27.355. Right, so on this fourth run we are using the full 100% of each gear and we are looking to at least match the Beetle with a 27.2. Hopefully this run will open it up some more and give me some oomph. For those who haven't seen my previous videos, all of my tests are in the online lobby with equal conditions and BOP on. And for this test I have 100 litres of fuel at ×1 and medium racing tyres. The full weight gives me the best opportunity to show you how it performs in a race. This run was much better and is now quicker than the Beetle at 27.243. On this run we are revving this baby out to the max and I'm wondering whether we may have found our first full revver as the times keep improving. It is tricky to upshift at the right point because if you go too far it tops out in some cars and you lose speed. It turns out this is one of those that tops out and I have to watch the rev counter on the right to shift before it hits the very end at 8,000 revs. This is even more tricky for VR users. You would need to watch the second box up from the bottom left on the dashboard to shift up before it hits 8,000. It definitely works though, as this Honda has improved again with a time of 27.124. After this run, I did also go on to test starting at 80% throttle, starting with 50% throttle and starting in second gear, but none of those improved the time. So looking at the leaderboard now, the Honda NSX goes into second place with its fully revved upshift time, and just look at the data on that board. It's an absolute coincidence because I use a number randomizer to decide what car I will test next, but in the first three we have a standard shifter, a short shifter and an over revver. If anyone watching thought it didn't matter when you upshift, this table shows you that you could be losing half a second to someone who has the same car from the start line to the first split on a straight just because you're upshifting the car wrong. Right then, for the first of two top speed tests I'm going to speed up the process and get us to the important part quicker. On this test we're looking at the Honda's top speed and the time we have to beat is 280 km/h set by the Chevrolet Corvette. I have 100 litres in the tank set to ×1. Special stage Route X takes us up that long hill and then back down the other side. After that, the cars settle back down on the flat to their natural top speed. After 9,000 metres I return the video to normal speed and we start to get an idea of what we're going to get. I'm enthused by this Honda's late showing in the acceleration test, so hopefully it will show up here too. Normally on previous tests the cars had settled down to their natural top speed by now, and the NSX is on 281 kilometers per hour. But just as I crossed the line it flipped onto 280, leaving me unsure what to put, so I progressed it around to the flat back straight to confirm that 280 kilometers per hour is definitely the number I was looking for. As you can see now it's definitely 280, so that's going to sit joint first with the Corvette on the top of the leaderboard, and let's move on to the second top speed test. The second top speed test is a lap time test around a Daytona trioval to see how well the NSX can maintain speed around fast bends. The video started on a hot lap after an out lap to get it up to speed. I'm surprised that the NSX matched the Corvette for speed on the straight, so is it quicker around the bends? It certainly does feel lighter on the wheel, making it a little harder to maintain the inside line around the track. The time to beat to top the chart is 52.015. I do hope to get some great insight into these cars by doing this test, as these are the types of things that we don't often look at. I did actually do this test twice with this Honda just to see how much variation or difference there would be by going slightly off the yellow line, and to my amazement I actually came in at 0.003 of a second different to this run. So 0.3 slower than the Corvette then, with a time of 52.336, even though these two cars have the same top speed, and my foot was down fully on the gas the whole way around this top speed lap test. Interesting. Let's move on to the BOP tests. The first BOP test is at Sardegna B, and pause now if you want to look at all of the tracks that fall into this low speed BOP category. We are trying to beat 1 minute 20.778, which was set by the Beetle on this one. The shock was that I forgot that this is a right hand drive. I should be used to this living in England, but suddenly the corners look and feel really different compared to the other cars that I've driven on this track. The brakes are okay on this car, and the lack of oversteer is allowing me to get onto the throttle much quicker out of the corners. The long gear ratios feel nice on this track, and I can nearly take turn 3 full out. I'm finding it very hard to fully rev the gears out because there is so much else to be looking at rather than the rev counter, making this a difficult car choice. After a few laps I do start tuning into the sound of just under 8,000 revs rather than looking. There's such a fine margin between the 100% revs, full over revs and topping it out. My brake balance for this track is set at +1. This is giving me just a touch of oversteer in places, but it's also giving me a lot more grip out of the corners. Steering is very responsive and turning in is not an issue. I did end up doing 3 stints before this because the track felt so different in right hand drive VR. I had to relearn the lines from a different angle. As you can see, I'm down on the first 2 splits, but I do gain some time from the third, ending with an optimum time of 1 minute 20.962. On the leaderboard, that places a Honda in second, with the Beetle still the car to beat around this track. There are a lot of cars to go yet though, so I don't expect it to stay there for long. The next BOP lap test is at Road Atlanta, and here is a list of all of the tracks that fall into the mid-speed balance of performance category. One thing I did notice on this first corner was that the Honda doesn't seem to turn as well onto an uphill, and I wondered if that is because the weight of the car is behind me with the mid-mounted engine. The car also felt quite unstable coming down through the S's. It actually felt more like a roller coaster than a race car in my rig. I did play with the brake balance and found 0 to be the most stable, as it was all over the place when further back. I never really found speed with comfort or vice versa. This is exactly the reason I chose this track though. In Sector 2, it went back to being a well balanced drive, exiting nicely out of the corners even though I went a bit wide before the straight this time. The optimum time to beat on this one is 1 minute 19.156, which was once again set by the Beetle. This track also gave me a lot more time and opportunity to upshift closer to 8,000 revs. I do like this car. It feels well balanced and grippy on flat tracks, but there is no edge. I like that it doesn't try to kill you exiting this final chicane, but will it have enough to beat the Beetle? Grip is nice and safe down the hill and around this final bend, and we cross the line with an optimum time of 1 minute 19.387. So on this occasion it didn't have enough to beat the Beetle, landing it once again in second place, 2 tenths behind the lead, with the Corvette trailing in third. Here we are about to start the final lap of the final stint of the high-speed BOP test at Daytona. These are the tracks that fall into this category in GT7. Coming into this first corner, I found it quite jerky, heavy trail braking into it, but once again confident getting the power down. I found joy dropping to first on these sector 1 turns and exiting in second. At this stage now, it's getting a bit frustrating having such a small margin of error for upshifting to get the most out of this car. Another frustrating thing with this car is, because the top of the gears top out, you have to upshift in places that you would normally remain in your current gear because of an upcoming braking point. For example, I want to stay in third up until this next braking point, but the gear tops out losing time, so I have to upshift to fourth briefly before downshifting for the turn. The time to beat on this one is 1 minute 47.091 set by the Corvette, and I have hopes because both have similar top speeds, and while the Corvette is faster on high speed bends, the NSX is much more agile around slow corners. I didn't like the bus stop chicane in the NSX. Because the power is in the top of the gear, it was too slow exiting in fourth, and dropping to third feels detrimental to the speed and flow of the manoeuvre. For those new to these BOP tests, I run 10 lap stints with an out lap. I run a couple of stints testing out best gears and brake balance, with a final stint improving times. I use 100 litres of fuel at ×1 and medium racing tyres at ×1. All tests have equal condition and BOP on. I explain the fair and equal integrity of my tests in greater detail in my first 2 videos of this series. I've always understood that MR cars favour brake balance to be moved towards the front of the car, but I found my best times when it was set at +1 on this track. As we finish this stint, the optimum time for the NSX is 1 minute 47.358. That time once again places the NSX in second place, suggesting that it's missing something to push it towards the top. Let's move on to the fuel and tyre test to see if we can find it there. As always, I run this test at Brands Hatch, testing the fuel consumption and tyre wear of each car and comparing them against each other. For this one I have 100 litres of fuel set at ×3 and soft racing tyres set at ×5. I drive at a solid pace until one of the tyres dies. I set up the cars and drive them as I would race them based on what we've learned so far. For the NSX that means fully revving out without topping it out, with the brake balance set to +1. Once again, I know this sounds strange, but I found the best times at +1, 0 and +1 on the BOP test. I cut out a large middle part of this test so you don't have to watch it all, and nobody wants to listen to me singing when I've run out of things to say. I'm back and the rear left is nearly dead, but we are on the 10th lap impressively. I nearly lose it exiting this corner, but I'm impressed how long the tyres have lasted compared to the other cars I've tested so far. I also thought I would have used much more fuel considering the high revs. As I'm thinking that there's only a couple of corners left, the rear left flips out and loses it, ending this one where I stop. I didn't see much point in rerunning the test for a smoother ending for an extra 100 metres, and this ending feels kind of authentic. As you might have seen at the top of the windscreen, we're on the 10th lap, meaning I've completed 9 laps including an out lap, and this graphic shows where I spun, confirming that I've completed 9.6 laps. When I transfer that over to the tyre wear comparison table, we can see that the NSX finally tops the chart, managing a lap more than the Beetle and 2 laps more than the Corvette. The next leaderboard for fuel usage makes no sense at all, but it is what it is. The NSX is now top even though we fully rev it out compared to the 100% upshift point of the Beetle. And the short shifting Corvette sits in third place. Make of that what you will. I will say though that it does suggest that the NSX could be a great fuel saver, upshifting at 90 or even 100% without losing that much time. Nice to see those guys rushing over to see if I'm alright. That wraps it up for this one, and I hope you gained as much from it as I did. Every time one of you hits like, it fills me with motivation to get more of this content out to you, and I'd love to read more comments. Thank you for joining me, and see you next time.